Hi, this is Mark with Right Line Trading, and what I would like to do is go over each of the individual indicators on the transition zone system. So if there's any question about configurability or function, this video should completely answer those questions. Now you can see right here is a transition zone trade, and you get a pullback and the transition zone line, and you can see the candle is outlined in pink or dark orange, and so you have all three quants and you have the three line. And what I'm going to do is I want to open this up and show you. Now you have a small pivot that you're trading into, but definitely on these kinds of entries, you're going to anticipate a break of the pivot, and you can see this trade went right through it. So let's look at each individual indicator. Now, let me explain it first, and then we're going to go over the inside of the indicator. Now, this first indicator are the quant lines. There are three on the E-mini. There are three on the Russell. There are three on the Dow and three on the NASDAQ. On bonds and notes, there are two. And on crude and on currencies, there are one. It depended upon the number of quants we have, depend upon how many correlative markets we could find. And what these indicators do, what this indicator does, is assess the direction of money flow. And there are 9 markets, 3 in each line. Now, on the E-mini, the major quant is the top line. That has a strong correlation with direction of the E-mini. Optimally, you'd like any trade you take to be in the direction of that first quant. The second is the intermediate quant. It also governs the direction of price on the E-mini quite strongly. There's also a very strong correlation coefficient. The minor quant plays less of a role. The instruments that are coded into the minor quant have less of a correlation coefficient, but still greater than 0.7. If they don't correlate either in the direction or in the counter trend direction of the E-mini, then they're not there. So different markets, or each market you trade, is going to require a different set of quant lines. Now, I'm going to open it up for you. Let's open the indicator up. And you can see that this is the quant analysis line for the E-mini. There's a quant line. Now, we'll give you all these quants. You just have to tell us which ones you want. We'll give them to you all. See, here's quant crude, quant E-mini, quant gold, quant natural gas, quant NASDAQ, quant Russell, quant Dow, quant bonds, quant notes. Now, we also have the quants for stocks, and they're bucketed into either it's on the Dow, the NASDAQ, the Russell, or the E-mini S&P. Some stocks are on multiple exchanges. Microsoft is on the NASDAQ. I think it's also part of the Dow. You're going to get small caps that are also part of the NASDAQ. You're going to have to make a decision as to which market you think has more throw weight in terms of its direction. Usually if it's a big cap or small cap tech stock, you're going to want to use the NASDAQ. And if it's a non-tech, mid-cap stock, you're going to use the Russell. And then you got the stocks on the Dow. We also have the quants. Now these are more quants for the 6B, 6C, 6J. We also have quants for the Forex. If you trade the Forex, you're going to have to tell us which Forex pairs you trade. That's the only indicator that has to be individualized either by basket, i.e. Dow, NASDAQ, Russell, or S&P, or by Forex pair, or by futures. Now, there are no inputs that need to be changed on this indicator. Everything is set by default, and you do not need to do anything when you change the E-mini. If you trade a 3-minute, no changes need to be made on the quants. If you trade a 4-hour, no change needs to be made. You trade a 377 tick, no change needs to be made. Now, this is the 3-line, and that's what creates this candle halo. Now, when it's aligned to the downside, you're going to get the halo to the downside. Here, when it's aligned to the upside, you get this halo. Now, if you open this indicator up and you look at the 3-line, let's open all of these up. Now, the 15 determines the thickness of the 3-line. I put them at 15. If you want them thicker, you can make them 20. If you like them thinner, you can make them 10. So it's totally up to you. Now, the other thing that's important is that a lot of traders have been calling and asking is about this candle outline. Now, I decided to use the halo for when the 3-line is in alignment of dark orange for a down color and deep sky blue for an up color. But you can use any color you like. Whatever works for you and makes it visually appealing, and you can clearly discriminate, you just choose that color. I just like the dark orange. Same thing with the sky blue. Now, that's the only inputs you have to work with. Display in data box is false. Price markers are false. Calculate on bar close is false. You want this to do an intra-bar calculation. These are all set by default. You don't have to do anything on these. When you open the indicator, download it, and insert it, they'll all be set. This will be set to 15, 15, and 15. So if you want to change the thickness, you just go in. Now, I don't know what colors are set by default, but you can go in and change the candle color outline simply by working right here. Now, the only time that you have to go outside the indicator box is to go up here to the data series. The data series is going to determine the color of the candle bodies. Now, I've just decided to color my down candles orange red and my up candles aquamarine. And again, you can pick any colors you like for these candle colors. You've already chosen your candle outline color, and these are the actual candle body colors. The only other thing that you can play with and work so it's just visually good for you is the thickness of the candle outline. I like the thickness to be 3, and I like the wick thickness to be 3. I mean, it just makes it easy for me. Now, if I made this 5 and this 5, you see, I just thickened the wicks and the candle halo. But for me, that's too thick. So I'm just going to go back, change the candle color outline to 3 and to 3. And for me, I'm very comfortable with this. So now you know the configuration on the quant lines and the 3-line. Again, the 3-line, nothing to do. except pick the thickness, decide on the halo color you want, and you go up to data series and decide on the thickness you want that color to be. And also you also choose the candle body color. The quants have no inputs except for the thickness. Again, if you want to make them thicker than 15, just go to 20. Thinner, you can go to 10. Just make sure that the right quant line is inserted on the right market, because it's going to change. It's going to make a difference in whether you take the trade. Now let's look at the other indicators. The pivots, there's nothing to do. Sensitivity is by default set at 200. The high pivot is red, the low pivot is blue, and the pivot width is 2. You should have to do nothing on this indicator, but these are the settings they should be. Moving average colored, line slope is 1, it's a 50 period. I like the indicator to have, I like the 50 to have a thickness of 5. The bias indicator, which is background bias, I set at these colors. These are my 3 up colors: cyan, powder blue, and this green color, bisque, misty rose, and dark pink. Now, let me get back here. Let's go back. Now, I'm going to send everybody a template. And the template is going to be an E-mini 5-range template. But it's going to help you because it's going to have these default colors in it and the default settings. You're going to have to manipulate out. Like if you don't have the right quant, you're going to have to take it out and move down the correct quant. But it's going to help you with most of these settings because it's going to set these 6 colors on your background bias. Remember, you're only going to trade a dark pink or a dark green. The trend is the modified 15, is right here. No settings. This should be your default. Down is red, neutral is yellow, up is green. I set my setting for thickness at 3. So my 50 is a thickness of 5, and my modified 15 is a thickness of 3. Now, the moving average analytics you never have to open. Everything in this is set by default. Now, these are the moving average analytics. They're right up here in this corner. Right here. Now, the only number, I mean, this is a good number because it tells you how many contracts have crossed on the E-mini in the course of the whole day. And obviously that's important. You want to have good volume. The more important number is here because it's telling you how many contracts are crossing per minute right now. And on the E-mini, if you can get about 2,000 to 3,000 contracts crossing per minute, you've got really excellent volume. So it's a good environment to trade. You can see the E-mini is really moving hard. Now, the MA diff is a critical number that you must pay attention to. It's I obviously highlighted it wrong, but it's right here. Now, it's always reading the space between the 50 and the 15 on the right edge of the chart. Now, we don't use an oscillator to determine overbought, oversold, because after 2 years of market replay data, we find that it doesn't work. But as the space between the 50 and the 15 widen, market structure defines an overbought, oversold market. Now, when you're trading a 5 range, you want the MA diff to be 13 or less. Now, it's going to be 2 fib numbers higher. So if you're trading a 5 range, you have an 8, 13, you want the MA diff to be 13 or less. It doesn't mean you can't take a trade with an MA diff that's higher than 13. It just means that the risk associated with the trade is greater. If you're trading an 8 range, you want the MA diff to be 21 or less. Again, it doesn't mean that you cannot trade with an MA diff greater than 21. It just means that you're trading a technically overbought or oversold market, and a risk associated with the trade is greater. Now, I don't use the slope color or slope degree because I can see it visually, and all I care about is the color. The color is red, and if the color is red visually, it's all that matters to me. This is a little bit of a finer way to fine-tune the slope because this is not in degrees. But if the slope of the 50 is 0.5 to 1, you've got significant slope. If the slope is 0.1, it's pretty flat, and it's about to change color or potentially change color. So you can look up here and look at how, and objectively see a number. And if we move this to the right edge, away from the actual 3-line, from the transition zone entry, you can see where we are right here. You can see that the modified 15 slope right here is 0, no slope. And you can see that the 50 is moving down with a slope of about 0.48. MA diff is 14. It tells you the market is just on the lip of overbought. I'm sorry, oversold. So you have a little bit of a problem here. And you can see on this trade, this was a small transition zone winner. It's not a huge one, but right here. And this would have been a 3-point trade. Not a huge trade. So let's go back. To our trade. Can't remember where it is. And well, I'm not going to worry about it. What we're going to do is let's just continue with the indicators. Now, we already did the quant lines. Now, the range marker. Now, if you trade time or you trade tick, you're going to have to tell us what your time is and tell us what your tick is easy. Because if you're trading a 377 tick, well, if you're trading a tick or time, you're going to have to come to us and we'll tell you what the MA diff should be. We have to know what it is. And we'll give you an assessment for overbought, oversold. Now, the range marker is a really nice tool because it tells you on the right edge. You see right here, it's telling you right where the candle's position now, where it's going to close to the upside and where its estimated close to the downside is. It's always estimating on a range candle where the close to the upside is and the close to the downside. So if this was a trade and you wanted to take a short trade, you'd set the trade. Well, it's moving a little too quickly, but if this was a close, it would be 2670.75 would be your close to the downside, and there it goes. So it estimates the close, and it can do that on a range candle. Now, this is a very, very important metric that you're not going to see anyplace else. Do you see this 7? It's moving really rapidly, but you see this 11 right here? This is telling you, and now it's getting bigger, it's 12, it's 7. The market's moving so fast. But what this is telling you is the distance the candle body open is from this modified 15. Now, when you take a long trade, you want to take a trade close to support. So based on the speed of your chart, if it's a 5 range, you want that number to be 3 or less. If it's an 8 range, you want that number to be 4 or less. If it's a 13 range, you want that number to be 7 or less. So you just tell us the speed, whether it's in range, time, or tick, and we'll tell you how far off, what is the maximal amount that number can be on a valid transition zone entry. And market profile has got lots of color input. Now, if your market profile, I haven't heard any complaints about market profile formatting, but I'm going to send you the template, and it's going to have all of the market profile colors in it. There's the delta assessments being made that you don't have to see. These are the value area lows, value area highs, point of control. This is all the information that goes into market profile to create those delta moving averages that we use to create the order flow assessment. It's all here, and it should be all set by default. And this is the default setting. So I'm going to have Rory send you this template. All you need to do if you want to trade a different instrument is do this. Let's say you want to trade crude. Simply put crude in. And then what you do is you then move. Remember, crude is on an 8 range. Move that to 8. So you can work off this template. And there's a transition zone trade right here. Now you're trading up into market profile. It's a little more dangerous. That's such a nice trade. You have to, and that's a 25 tick trade. So, and the other thing that you have to do, and I'm going to actually do it, is you're going to have to remove the quant for the E-mini, take it out, put the quant back, put the quant in for crude, quant CL, new, and make sure the quant line is in panel 2. The 3 line is in panel 3. And you're set. Hit OK. And you're good to go. And you can actually take this chart and move it down to give yourself more room here. And that's all you've got to do from changing from template to template. There's nothing else. All the colors are set. Everything else is all configured. And you're all set to go. So I hope this answers a lot of questions and makes it a lot easier to configure the system. Now, the template that you're going to be sent is obviously going to be of benefit. because you're going to start off with the whole basic system intact. Now let me show you how to put in a template. The first thing you have to do is you open up your computer and you go to Documents. And in Documents, we use NinjaTrader 7. You hit NinjaTrader 7, and then you go to Templates, and then you go to Chart. And there's all of my templates. I have 1,000,000 templates. And I'll just do that one more time and just drag it in here. Let's go backwards. Here's just the desktop. You go to Documents, NinjaTrader 7, Templates, Chart, drag it in. Then close, and it's in the right folder. Then you can right-click on the chart, and you see it says Templates. You go to Load Template, and you're going to have that template here. And it's going to be listed as TZ template, Transition Zone template. Put it in, hit OK. Now if I do this, it's going to reload the E-mini template, which I'll just show you. Hit it. It'll take a minute to load, and there it is. This is your E-mini with your E-mini quants, your E-mini 3-line. The only thing that you have to do is you have to change the instrument to the E-mini. The template doesn't change the instrument for you. All it does is provide you with the indicators. Give it a chance for the E-mini to set it, to load. And then just set this to a 5 range. I showed you a couple of really good transition zone entries that occurred today. They weren't huge, but they were nice winners. If you traded 2 contracts, they were nice trades. And there you go. You're all set. You don't have to do anything on this chart, and it's all set to go. So I hope that makes things a lot better for you, and at least it gives you a solid foundation with which to trade. Now I'm going to be doing a webinar shortly to actually show you all the other parameters that are required. I don't want to do it on this video. This is simply a configuration video for setting it up and creating templates for different markets. Now, what I could do is I could save as and move this down to transition zone and save this as my transition zone template, ES. And if I hit OK, I'm now going to have an E-mini transition zone template. Then when I switch out the quant to the crude quant, change the speed to 8, move this to CL, then I can open, template, save as, move down, and put TZ template, CL. And so you start building templates. If you're trading stocks, you build a transition zone template for each stock that you want to trade. So obviously you're going to have a lot of templates. I probably have 100 templates. And if you look at to load, you can see I have templates for all the Forex pairs, For the Russell, here's the pound on all different speeds, the pound New Zealand. I have all the futures. There's the Aussie dollar. I've got all different instruments. Here's the notes, the 6B, the 6E, the 6E, the 6J, the 6C. So I have lots of templates. There's the Dow, my 8-range Dow template. There's my my DAX template on an 8-range. So I have them all. So you build a template library, and it's very, very easy for you to move from instrument to instrument. Or if you have multiple instruments open at the same time, you're going to have templates for all of them. So I hope that answers a lot of questions. We're still going to be doing that webinar. I believe we'll be doing it tomorrow. But these are the nuts and bolts in configuring this system. It's really very simple. And it should give you, on multiple instruments, at least 2 or 3 trades a day. So thanks a lot for coming aboard. You won't regret it. If you're in the trading room, we're going to make money. And welcome aboard. And again, any additional questions, please do not hesitate to give me a call. Take care all. And bye-bye.